It's Michael and welcome to a new GTK window tutorial. Today we are going to move on and we are going to apply the last three icon functions which help us to basically create some icons for our application. The first icon which I'm going to introduce it is called GTK Window Set Icon, which is a little bit different from the default icon. And why is that? Because here you're setting an icon to a window which you specify. You want to specify yourself. In this case, you see the first argument or the first parameter of this function, it is a GTK window, and the second argument of all this function, it is basically the argument which you was using when you call these three functions. You will see. So in other words, set up the icon representing a GTK window. This icon is used when the window is minimized, also known as iconified. Some Windows Manager or desktop environments may also place it in the window frame or display it in other contexts. On others, the icon is not used at all, so your mileage may vary. You see where you actually need to take care about this story, and you see where the main difference it is now between GTK icon set and default set default icon. In other words, I'm going to, we don't need this one anymore, so I'm going to hide it. Instead, we are going to need these two things right here. So I'm going to call this function. The first one, as you can see, it says it is the GTK window. So GTK window. I need to cast it, sorry. So we need to cast our window. And the second one, it is the icon. So in this case, we need to reveal the color of the creation of Pixbuff. In other words, from the last video, because you already know, that was the reason why I start with the default icon and not with the icon, with the set icon functions, because you need to understand how these things work. So at this point, we have an icon name, we have an error, and then we pass the icon name and the error to the Pixbuff new from file, and then once that we have the icon, basically we work with it. Anyway, the else part right here, I'm going to move it because we don't really need it now, and instead oh, you know what, I'm going to move all these things. Let me put it back. So I'm going to cut this one and move it right here, and instead of this function we are going to call this one this time. So GTK window set icon, where we're passing the window as its first argument and the second icon which we just created. And as you can see, it works fine, and here is our icon, which means everything looks fine and works. Okay, if something goes wrong, you already know the icon, it will be we have some error printed and so on. Basically, this is the way how it works GTK window set icon. I'm going to mark it as read. The next thing is GTK window set icon from name. If we move down a little bit from file, from name right here, no, GTK window set icon name, yes, this one it is. It says a function which, as you can see, takes also two parameters. The first one is the window, and the second one is a name. It is the same story. It sets the icon from for the window from a name icon. So in other words, if we call this function, we don't need the Pixbuff anymore, so I'm going to hide it again. We don't need the arrow as well, and we don't need the icon name. So in other words, if we call this function, we need the GTK window as its first parameter or argument in this case, and we need an icon name. Icon names, as you can see, there are a lot. If I now pass phone, because I know this icon, as you can see now we have an icon right here which looks like a Nokia, if I'm right. whatever, it is a phone icon. So the icons which you choose, again, you go back to the name, icon name specification, and search for icon, or if you don't like those, then just work with GTK 3 icon browser. So basically this is the way how works this function, GTK set icon name. I'm going to mark it as read as well. And the last function which we're going to talk today, it will be GTK window set icon from file. So let me go back and search this function. Right here, GTK window set icon from file. In other words, this function takes 3 arguments or parameters. The first parameter here, it is the window, the second is the location of the icon, and the last one, it is the error in case that something goes wrong. As you can see, it is a Boolean function, which is good for us. So let me comment this one right here, and I'm going to say again, if GTK window set icon from file, and the first one which we need is the GTK window. This is the first argument. The second one, it is the file. Basically the file, it is this one, and the last one will be the error. These two we need to pass them here. So the next one is the icon name, and the last one, it will be the error, of course. Now I'm going to say again, where was right here. I'm going to copy these 2 things because I don't want to type again. And what we did here, we basically called the GTK window set icon from file, passing its first argument the window, the second the icon, which we basically have the GTK logo, and the last one, it is an error, which means we are also checking an error. We are not checking only an error, we are checking also the return of this function. So if it's true, then the icon was set. If it's not true, which means something goes wrong, then the error message which we get it here, it will be set. So in other words, if I compile and run the program right now, we will see how it's working. And as you can see, we have the logo right here, and the icon was set, it is printed. And of course the same story goes as well. If we change the name now with something which we don't have, at this point we should drop to the else part where it says something went wrong. As you can see, something went wrong and failed to open the GTK file logo, PNG, GG, and so on. No such file or directory. So in other words, this is the way how you deal with this function. Now, as you can see, at this point we know how to actually set icons for our window, and we know actually how these things are working, and we can proceed with our application once that we create an icon for our windows or for our application. That being said, thank you guys for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.